All right, what is good, y'all? Welcome back to the BLS podcast, aka the biggest little sportscast. I'm your host, Kenny Moss. Um, some of you who were longtime watchers, or not watchers, but I guess listeners of this podcast back when we were doing it regularly, probably are gonna be like, "What the hell? Like, why is there a new episode?" There's a new episode. The BLS podcast is back. The only thing is, it's probably not gonna be me and the guys. It's probably just going to be me this time. It's just a little difficult to get everybody's schedules together. Everyone has their own lives going on. It's not easy to do it on a weekly basis with everybody. But nonetheless, the guys are welcome anytime they want to come on an episode. If they ever feel like it, they're more than welcome. But yeah, so the format is going to be pretty similar. It's going to be still NFL, NBA, and MLB. But the episodes are going to be much shorter. So we were going for about 2-hour episodes. Initially, when we first started this podcast, it's probably going to be shortened down to about 45 minutes to an hour. I'm going to be spending about 15 minutes on football, 15 minutes on NBA, 15 minutes on basketball, give or take, depending on, what season we're in, what one needs more of a priority in that episode. But nonetheless, it's going to be pretty much breaking up into thirds, NFL, NBA, and MLB sections. And they're going to be a little bit of shorter episodes this time around. But nonetheless, we're going to be talking sports. It's going to be super fun, and I'm so stoked to have BLS back. And with a visual component this time around. It's going to be on YouTube. So yeah, I'm super stoked about it. So to kick things off, I think being that we're in the heat of NFL right now, the playoffs are about to get started. We just finished up Week 18. I think it's only right that we start with the football segment, that we start with the NFL and the wild card predictions and the wild card preview. So the first game of the wild card is Saturday at 1:30, and it's going to be between the Cleveland Browns and the Houston Texans. Cleveland going to Houston. The quarterback matchup there, we got Joe Flacco quarterbacking the Browns. We got C.J. Stroud quarterbacking the Texans. The running back matchup, Jerome Ford is going to be the primary guy for Cleveland, and Devin Singletary is going to be the primary guy for Houston. It is kind of sad with Houston's big jump and how good they've been this year that Dameon Pierce hasn't followed along, that he's trailing behind, the rest of the pack. It is a little bit unfortunate. You would want Dameon Pierce to be that lead guy and be that running back cornerstone of the future in the way that C.J. Stroud has clearly been that at quarterback, but he just hasn't, which is a little sad, but it is what it is. And then the receiver matchups, Amari Cooper and Nico Collins, which Amari Cooper actually is questionable, but I feel like he's going to play in this game. It's a playoff game. I feel like he's going to find a way. Noah Brown also questionable for Houston, but again, I think he's going to find a way, man. It's a wild card matchup. Houston is playing with house money, really. I don't think anybody at the start of the season expected them to be here. So, and to a certain extent, Cleveland playing with house money as well. I mean, Joe Flacco is their quarterback, I don't think people saw Joe Flacco as a Super Bowl caliber quarterback at all going into this year. So both teams kind of playing with house money. It should be a really fun, really interesting game. Looking at how these two teams match up, in the past game, I think I'm going to trust Houston a little bit more than Cleveland. Even though Joe Flacco has looked really good, he's balled out towards the end of this season. C.J. Stroud has just also looked really, really good. And C.J. Stroud, I would confidently say, I believe, that C.J. Stroud is a top 10 quarterback in the league right now. And as a rookie, it seems like early to say that, but I don't know, man. Just from what I've seen and how well he's played, I would rather have him quarterbacking my team than 20 other dudes. So I think he's a top 10 right now. And the receiving weapons that he has, Nico Collins, Noah Brown, Tank Dell, who is actually going to be hurt in this game, unfortunately. He's actually not going to be playing in this one. But really good receiving core. Dalton Schultz has been a really good tight end for him as well. I trust Houston's pass game more than I trust Cleveland's pass game. But where I think Cleveland can make up that edge is obviously with their pass rush. Myles Garrett and the rest of that defensive line can really wreak havoc. And if they can find a way to make C.J. Stroud, who, although he hasn't looked like a rookie, is a rookie, if they can find a way to make him uncomfortable and try to get him to make rookie mistakes, Cleveland definitely can make up that gap in the passing game that I favor to Houston. Houston's defense is really good. D'Amico Ryans, I believe is his name. They've been really, really good. But Cleveland's defense is just that much better. And I think if Joe Flacco can put together a really good game where he doesn't turn the ball over, just makes the right reads, puts the ball where it's supposed to go, and if he can get the protection that he needs, I think it's going to be enough for Cleveland to win this one. And Cleveland, for those of you who are betting, I believe Cleveland is 2.5 spread favorites at this moment in time, despite the fact that they are the road team, which means they're automatically getting docked 3. So if this game were to be taking place on a neutral site, they would be 5.5 point spread favorites. Now 5.5 does seem a little bit big to me. 2.5 definitely seems about right to me. But nonetheless, Cleveland is the favorites, and I think it's that defense that just really, really puts it over the top. That being said, who am I gonna pick in this game? It's hard because I love defense, and I think defense can carry you a long way, and I favor Cleveland in that aspect. But C.J. Stroud is really, really good. I just think it's a little bit too early for him. I'm going to pick Cleveland in this game. I think Cleveland moves on. Joe Flacco's been balling. I think he's going to continue to do that. He's got some fresh legs. Has only played about half the season, if that. And C.J. Stroud, I think he's going to look really good. I think Houston's going to look really good. I think this is going to be a really, really great game. I'm super excited for this game. But if I had to pick, I think I'm gonna edge out the favorites, the Cleveland Browns. I think I'm going to pick them in this one. The second game of that Saturday is the Miami Dolphins and the Kansas City Chiefs, another game that we should be super, super excited for. Obviously, Tua and Mahomes, obviously Achane and Pacheco, obviously Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Jalen Waddle is listed as questionable right now. Raheem Mostert is listed as questionable right now, but I believe both of them are probably going to play. Rashee Rice is another person who's listed as questionable for Kansas City. Again, he's probably going to play. He has been huge for them. As far as wide receivers on the team go, not counting Travis Kelce, he has been the best receiving option for them. But yeah, man, when you look at these two teams and how they stack up stat-wise so far this year, Miami has a major advantage offensively, except for on third down percentage. Kansas City's offense actually has a higher third down percentage than Miami's offense. But man, that Miami offense is so high-powered. I think comparing these two offenses, I think Miami's offense is more high-powered than Kansas City's offense. Comparing these two teams defensively, the stats will tell you that it's heavily in favor of Kansas City. But I think that the Miami stats get a little bit inflated because their offense is so high-powered and scores so quickly that other teams naturally score more as well, just because they have the ball more, because Miami doesn't have the ball for a long period of time because they're scoring so fast. So I do think those numbers get a little bit skewed. But so I can't let the stats tell it. Kansas City's defense is far, far superior to Miami's defense. But again, why I think those stats might be a little bit skewed, I'm actually going to say it's a little bit closer, a little bit more even. I definitely think Kansas City's defense has the edge. But especially in the run game, Miami's defense is no slouch. So yeah, I'm gonna say it's a little bit closer than looking at the stats would have you believe here. Kansas City won their previous matchup this season, 21-14. And this is a tough one, man. It's a tough one to pick, but I think I'm gonna go with the Miami Dolphins in this game. And, Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. He might make me look stupid and just come out here and do what he does. And the Kansas City Chiefs might come out here and just do what they do and make me look stupid for picking Miami. But just from what I have seen from these two teams, which team, if I was a betting man, would I feel more comfortable putting my chips on? Just from what I've seen this year, it's got to be Miami for me, personally. But this should be a super fun game, man. You have the storyline of Tyreek Hill facing his former team, which is going to be really sick as well. I look for Tyreek to have a big game. I look for Travis Kelce, who has not had maybe the greatest season, at least not by his own standards. I look for him to have a big game. Yeah, man, this one should be super fun. I'm gonna pick Miami. I believe Kansas City is the favorites in this game. Can't quite recall what the spread was, but Kansas City was definitely the favorites in this one, I believe. Let me check that actually. All right, so the spread for this game is Kansas City -4, and Kansas City's also the home team. So really, if they were in a neutral site, it would be Kansas City -1, and Kansas City -1 sounds a lot more like what I think this matchup really is. I know Miami's on the road, but I'm taking the underdogs in this one, man. If I'm putting my money down, I'm putting my money down on Miami, and that's good. That's gonna be my pick. And then moving on from there, we get to the Sunday slate, which is 3 games. First, the 10 a.m. game is Pittsburgh and Buffalo. Now, off rip, I think Mason Rudolph is going to be starting at quarterback. Apparently, Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky are actually going to be playing backup, even though they're both healthy. And they're actually going to go with Mason Rudolph. At least that's what Google says. So, yeah, I think at nearly every aspect, I give the edge to the Bills in this game. And I'm taking the Bills pretty significantly here. The spread in this game is Bills minus 10. If it was Bills minus 9.5, I would take it because the hook right there. But Bills minus 10. I mean, if I have to pick against the spread, that's tough because 10 is a lot of points. Like I said, if it was 9.5, I would take it. I think the Bills are going to win this game pretty convincingly, though. I don't think Pittsburgh's offense is going to be able to keep up with Buffalo's offense, despite Pittsburgh's incredible defense all season long. And you look at the stats, and it overwhelmingly favors the Bills, especially on offense, and defensively, it even overwhelmingly favors Buffalo. So, shit, man. And the last time they played, Buffalo won 38-3. Granted, that was the 2022 season, but pretty similar teams. And yeah, man, I think Buffalo is going to win this one pretty convincingly. And now we get to the second game of that Sunday, which is Green Bay and Dallas. Jordan Love and Dak Prescott, Aaron Jones, Tony Pollard, and then the absolute committee receiver squad for Green Bay versus CeeDee Lamb as the main receiver over there in Dallas. A couple of guys who are questionable for this game are Stephon Gilmore, Romeo Doubs, and A.J. Dillon. Again, I think all of them are probably going to find a way to play. If you look at the stats, offensively, Dallas's offense is overwhelmingly favored over Green Bay's offense, and the same thing on the defensive side. The stats overwhelmingly show that Dallas's defense is much better than Green Bay's defense. Their previous matchup, though, which was last season, granted, I think Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback, but it was Green Bay 31-28. Now, look, man, this is where history is skewing my judgment on this one, right? Because the stats everywhere tell you that Dallas is the right pick here. And I believe, of course they're the favorites in this game, but the spread for this game is Dallas minus 7.5. Everything tells you Dallas is going to win this game. But I just have a feeling that Green Bay is going to pull this one out. I don't know why. I don't know what. I think it's just the way Jordan Love has played. I think I have a little bit more faith in Jordan Love than I do Dak Prescott. And I do like Dak. I think Dak gets overhated. But I just really, really like what I've seen from Jordan Love, especially in the second half of this season. And, the Green Bay Packers receiving core is young, but they've got a lot of guys. I mean, between Dobbs and Christian Watson and Jaden Reed and the new guy Wicks, who's been balling these past few weeks, they're a really stacked receiving core. At least as far as just really, really solid receivers. They don't have a main number one guy, but they got a bunch of really, really solid guys. And Jordan Love has been so good at reading the defense and getting it to the right guy. Of course, Aaron Jones is a great running back. They have a solid defense as well. I'm going to pick Green Bay. I'm going to pick Green Bay in this game. And again, it might just be the history of the Dallas Cowboys. They feel cursed to me. So maybe that is playing a bigger part than I would like to admit here. But I'm going to pick against the stats. I'm going to pick against the record. I'm going to pick against the sports books. And I'm going with the Green Bay Packers in this wild card game against the Dallas Cowboys. In Dallas. And which is interesting to me. And so I might point out, if looking at the stats, the spread for this game should be pretty much what the spread for the Bills and Steelers game was, especially considering the fact that Dallas is at home. But Dallas is at home, which means they get the 3-point boost, and the spread is still only minus 7.5, which means in a neutral site, the spread would have been minus 4.5. And minus 4.5, when the stats are that lopsided, makes me think that the sports books are also a little weary of the Dallas Cowboys performing how they should in this game. And a little weary of Green Bay playing with house money. And so That spread, I think, should be higher based off the stats and everything. And the fact that that spread isn't higher does make me feel a little bit more confident in my Green Bay Packers pick. And then the final game of that Sunday, the Sunday night wildcard game, is going to be the LA Rams and the Detroit Lions. You get the storyline of Matthew Stafford facing his former team and Jared Goff facing his former team. Both of them look like teams that could make a pretty deep run into these playoffs here. And we'll just have to see which one of them pulls it off. Now, this one is one that's really hard to pick for me, right? Because it's a moment of picking between what my brain thinks and what my heart wants, right? But nonetheless, let's get into this. So, Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford. Jared Goff's numbers are actually a lot better than Stafford's this year, but I think we know who is probably the better quarterback in that matchup. Kyron Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. The run game easily goes to Detroit. Detroit's run game is far superior. And then I think the receivers in Detroit are actually far superior as well. So comparing these two offenses, Jared Goff is not the better quarterback, but the numbers say he's the better quarterback, and he has the better team around him, the better offense around him. Matthew Stafford is probably the better quarterback, although the numbers don't necessarily support it. And this season, just strictly speaking, this season, the numbers don't necessarily support it. And he doesn't have the better offense around him. So that's how these two offenses look compared to each other. And then defensively, roughly even as far as pass defenses go, but the run defense for the Detroit Lions is very good. The second best run defense in the league. And third down percentage for the Detroit Lions are top 10 in third down percentage defensively as well. So Lions got a slight edge defensively. I think Lions got a slight edge offensively. Overall, Lions appear to be significant favorites here. Their previous matchup, which came a while ago, is not even relevant. This is a tough one. It's a really tough game to pick. It's a really tough game to analyze. Detroit is a -3. This is where I'm going to ultimately end up making my pick of who I think is going to win versus who I want to win. Who I want to win is the Detroit Lions. No doubt about it. I want Detroit to win this game. Their fans deserve it. That team is super fun to watch. I would love to see them go on a deep playoff run. I want the Detroit Lions to win this game. But who do I think is going to win this game? I think the LA Rams are going to win this game. I think Matthew Stafford is going to have an incredible game. I think Puka Nacua is going to have an incredible game. And when I look at the fact that Lions are the home team and the spread is -3, which tells me if this was a neutral site, it would be 50-50. Despite everything I talked about, like Lions have advantages statistically everywhere. Personnel-wise, you would think the Lions have advantages everywhere. But yet the sports book think that on a neutral site, this is a 50-50 matchup. And that right there tells me that they're nervous about what the Lions are capable of doing in this game. And as is me when I use my brain. Now, my heart wants to pick the Lions, but my brain wants to pick the Rams. And I'm going to go with the Rams here. I think the Rams are going to win this game. I think they're going to pull off an upset. ESPN is giving the Rams a 46% chance to win this game. Which, again, just when you look at the statistics, that just seems like too high of a percentage. But, yeah, man, I gotta go with the Rams. I'm picking against the statistics here. And I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Rams to win this game. And then the final game of Wild Card Weekend is the Monday matchup between Philadelphia and Tampa Bay. I think Philadelphia is going to absolutely wash Tampa Bay. As of right now, they are a -3 favorites, which doesn't really make sense to me. I know that Philly has been really bad these past few weeks to end the season, but Tampa Bay has not looked good either. So it's just two teams that have looked really bad these past few weeks. And not only is it two teams that have looked really bad these past few weeks, but one of those teams is clearly way more superior talent-wise than the other one, referring to the Philadelphia Eagles. So when I'm looking at two teams who are cold streaks right now and do not look good and look like booty cheeks, I'm going with the team that has the better personnel, and that is the Eagles. Now, statistically, there's actually Tampa Bay's defense actually has the advantage statistically on defense. But it's not huge, and I think Philly's defense is going to look a lot better in this game, especially when you consider just how bad Baker Mayfield and this Tampa Bay offense has looked these past few weeks. Yeah, man, I expect Philly to go ahead and take care of business as they did earlier in this year when these two teams played, And that is my final predictions and previews for the wild card weekend. That's going to do it for the NFL section. I think we can go ahead and move into NBA at this point. Now, I have a couple different topics for NBA. Nothing super crazy going on in NBA right now. But I do want to talk about the Lakers. So the Lakers, as we know, won the in-season tournament. LeBron James becoming the first in-season tournament MVP ever. The Los Angeles Lakers winning the first in-season tournament championship ever. It was great. I didn't like that the Lakers win it. I'm a Celtics fan, but I did love the tournament itself, and I loved how it turned out, and just how entertaining the games were. Everything that everybody was worried about was proven to just be ridiculous. There was no reason to worry. This was a great idea from the jump. I've been preaching that this was a great idea from the jump. And the in-season tournament turned out great, and as we know, the Lakers won. Now, the Lakers have not looked very good outside of the in-season tournament. They went undefeated in the in-season tournament, both in group play and obviously in the tournament portion. But outside of the in-season tournament, they have not looked like a playoff, like a real deal playoff team, much less a contender. I mean, if like the way this team has looked recently, if I were to see them in a 7-game series against Denver or against the Clippers, even though they beat the Clippers recently, but against the Clippers or against even teams like Minnesota and OKC right now just look like they're better teams than Los Angeles, and it doesn't look like Los Angeles is keeping pace with them. Did they just win the tournament and then decide, okay, the rest of the season doesn't matter, we're champions? I don't think so. I don't think they view it that way. I definitely don't think LeBron views it that way. But there's apparently some things going on with the relationship with Darvin Ham. This could be another situation where a LeBron-led team kicks out a coach. We get a new coaching change. I mean, that's nothing new when it comes to LeBron-led teams. The coach turnover for LeBron-led teams is very high. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get another scenario like that here. What do I think the problem is with this team? I think the problem with this team is they are still way too over-reliant on LeBron. Now, LeBron has defeated Father Time and still looks incredible, and is making it work, but I still think that they're just far too over-reliant on him. And this is an issue with other LeBron teams in the past. Like, when you're too over-reliant on one player, it can become a detriment, even if that one player is the best player to ever lace him up. So I really think that's what it is. I think they need to find a way to fit the proper pieces around LeBron and AD so that LeBron isn't carrying so much of the load, but that's hard to do when guys like Austin Reeves are inconsistent from the previous season to this season, and same thing with D'Angelo Russell. He's inconsistent. You don't know what you're going to get from him. Rui Hachimura looked really, really good tail end of last year, and this year just hasn't been that great. So just that inconsistency from the role players, I really think that's what it is. Do I think this team can turn it around to where they become a contender caliber team? I mean, with LeBron on your team, anything is possible. Who knows? Maybe they get a new coach in there who kind of changes the culture. Maybe they make some trades at the deadline, ship D'Lo out of there for somebody who's a little bit more fitting for the team. There's some things they could do to definitely improve the spot that they're in right now. But and anything, like I said, anything is possible with LeBron. But I would not bet on this team being a top 6 seed. I think this team is going to end up in the play-in. I think, of course, they're going to make it out of the play-in. And last year, they made it all the way to the conference finals as a play-in team. So, you never know. Once you get to the postseason, you got LeBron and AD on your team. Anything can happen. But yeah, it's hard to judge what's going on with this Lakers team. The LeBron Lakers era has been the most roller coaster, up and down era of LeBron's career, I think. I mean, his first year they missed the playoffs. Next year they win the championship. And then after that, I believe they get beat in the first round. And then after that, it's just been up. They missed the playoffs again with Russ, and then they make the conference finals, and it is all over the place. Man, I don't know what to make of the Lakers. They're just way too inconsistent these past few years for me to put any kind of faith in what I think they can or can't do. One thing, I guess since we're on the topic of the Lakers, LeBron sticking up for Jaylen Brown, and this kind of segues into the other NBA topic I wanted to talk about. LeBron sticking up for Jaylen Brown getting fouled and then them overturning it, which ultimately led to the Celtics losing the game, which it had that foul been called, Jaylen probably hits one, if not both of those free throws, and the Celtics probably win the game. But having it be overturned, that leads to Indiana winning, and the Celtics not really having a chance to answer. And I thought it was interesting that LeBron stuck up for Jaylen Brown publicly on social media and really stuck up for the Celtics and said this was a poor call that cost them the game. Now, you guys, I just thought it was interesting because it was a moment of LeBron saying, look, I don't only hate when the refs get calls wrong against me. I hate when they get calls wrong even against my rivals. Like LeBron doesn't like the Celtics. That's no secret. So, for him to come out in support of Jaylen Brown and of the Celtics in that scenario, it was interesting to me. And I think it's good for players like LeBron and big-name players to hold these referees accountable because, man, there are so many times, it feels like in sports lately, it's been so frustrating. Just there's so many games I feel like they're decided by the referees. And it really is frustrating. Like, we need that to stop. It needs to feel like the games were decided by the two teams on the floor, not by the person with the whistle. So I'm full support of LeBron coming out and making these statements, especially if he's showing that he is going to support, even his rivals. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. But this kind of segues nicely into my next segment, which is the Pacers. For, like, the Celtics and the Bucs, at least, have to be the most annoying team in the league. They have to be. And I saw a Reddit post where a Celtics fan went onto the Bucs subreddit and was like, look, man, I know we're rivals, but let's just come together for a second and talk about the fact that the Pacers are fucking annoying. And I thought that was pretty hilarious. Me personally, I don't necessarily think the Pacers are annoying. I love watching the Pacers play. The way they play basketball is super fun, man. Extremely fast-paced, shots chucked up everywhere, ball movement everywhere. Defense is terrible. If you like defense, don't watch the Pacers play defense. But if you like offense, watch the Pacers. They are so fun to watch. So I don't personally have anything against the Pacers. Was I really pissed when they beat us in the tournament? Yeah, just because they acted like they won the fucking championship, and it kind of got under my skin a little bit. Can I see why Celtics and Bucs fans hate this team so much? Of course. They always beat the Celtics and Bucs. They always brag about beating the Celtics and Bucs. They're always talking shit. And usually when they beat, at least in case of the Celtics, when they win, there's somebody out with an injury, so you're not even beating the team at the full strength. So I can understand why people think this team is mad annoying. But I think it's good. I think it's good for the league, man. I'm here for it. Piss me off, piss everybody off. Like, we need more teams out here that are, like, trying to make rivalries, trying to make real intense competition. Teams that just poke the bear. Like, we need that, man. Like, that just makes these games so much more entertaining. So I'm on board with Indianapolis doing what they're doing. Keep doing what you're doing, Indy. I'm on board with it. My last thing for the NBA segment was, can the OKC Thunder compete for a title? And if I'm being honest, I think they can. Right now, looking at the West, I think they are, of the teams in the West, I think they are a top 3 contender. I think right now Nuggets and Clippers look like the 2 highest contenders, and I think OKC is right there. Chet Holmgren has been phenomenal defensively. He is super skilled on the offensive end of the floor. He's really scary to look at, but goddamn is he an impressive basketball player. J-Dubs is awesome. I love J-Dubs. He's just a really good two-way player. And, of course, nothing needs to be said about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, man. MVP candidate. He might even win it with just how incredible he's been. The question for the Thunder is, are they too young? If they run into the Boston Celtics, if they run into the Denver Nuggets, it's going to be tough for them. But just from what I've seen so far this year, disregarding age, like let's say I didn't know the age of any of these players, they look like a team that can win a championship. So I'm going to go ahead and say they can do it. That's it. That's all I had for NBA segments. let's get into MLB really quick. And MLB, probably not going to do a full 15 minutes on MLB today, but I just want to talk about some of the offseason acquisitions, mainly the Dodgers and the Yankees just really beefing up, which comes as no surprise. But the Dodgers get Shohei Ohtani. They add Teoscar Hernandez. They add Tyler Glasnow. I mean, the rich get richer at this point. I mean, to have Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, you've got three of the top 10 players in baseball. Top 10 to 20 players in baseball. You've got three of them. That's pretty impressive, man. And you've got the guy now in Shohei Ohtani. He is the number one. You've got him. So, yeah, the Dodgers look scary. Will they win the whole thing? I don't know. I'm on board with them winning the whole thing, though, just for the simple fact that I would like to see Mookie get another one as a Red Sox fan, and I would like to see Shohei get one just because Shohei deserves it, man. He is an unreal talent. Outside the Dodgers, Yankees get Juan Soto, which that's crazy. And they also add Verdugo in the outfield, which as a Red Sox fan, man, that I don't know what was going on. Like, I don't know what happened, but clearly the relationship soured somewhere between Verdugo and the Red Sox, which sucks, man. I was a Verdugo fan. I liked him on the Red Sox. He wasn't a star or anything, but he was a really good player who I enjoyed watching play, and he always had good interactions with the fans. Yeah, so something must have soured along the way, and they end up trading him to the Yankees for hardly anything. So I was definitely bummed about that as a Red Sox fan. Other moves that the Red Sox made, they also traded away Chris Sale to the Atlanta Braves. So the Braves hopefully getting the version of Chris Sale from a few seasons ago and not the version of Chris Sale that we've seen these past few years. I hope he does well over there in Atlanta. Red Sox also signed Lucas Giolito, who you hope he can have kind of a bounce-back season. He did not look very good last year, but maybe he can definitely shore up the Red Sox pitching a little bit more. Red Sox also get Tyler O'Neill, who is kind of going to be the replacement for Verdugo, I guess, in a sense. And, I'm not mad at it. Tyler O'Neill's a really good player. He looked really good for one of the few bright spots for the St. Louis Cardinals last year, so not mad at that at all. Couple other small additions that I kind of want to mention. Mariners add Mitch Garver. Reds add Candelario. Kimbrel goes to the Baltimore Orioles, which, again, I mean, the back end of Baltimore's bullpen is really scary. But yeah, man, that's gonna do it. That's gonna do it for the first episode return of the BLS podcast. Didn't talk a whole lot about baseball, but it's off season. What do you expect? Didn't talk a whole lot about NBA either. We are kind of in the heat of the regular season for NBA. Hopefully, as more stories come out, there will be more to talk about there. But the main thing was we previewed the wild card weekend for the NFL, which I'm super, super excited for. I'm super stoked for BLS to be back. Real quick, I'll get some plugs in before we get up out of here. If you guys don't know, I dropped an album earlier this year and a mixtape. Or not even earlier this year. I dropped 2 projects last year. I dropped an album and a mixtape. The mixtape just came out only a few weeks ago. It's entitled Las Sombras. The album from earlier last year entitled Michael Kenneth Smith. Please go check both of those out. Las Sombras is only a 30-minute listen if you have the time. I would really appreciate it if you guys go and listen to that. Hear me rap for a little bit. Let me know what you think. Hopefully you like the beats. My friend Marco made all the beats. He killed it. Outside of the mixtape, go subscribe to K Reviews podcast on YouTube. Link will be in the description below. That is my music review podcast. Go subscribe, or you can get it audio form anywhere where you get your podcasts. K Reviews with Kenny Moss. Go follow me on TikTok. I post a bunch of videos about my vinyl collection if you're into vinyl there. I do some sports videos on TikTok occasionally as well. But yeah, that's it, man. I'm super stoked for BLS to be back. Biggest Little Sportscast was the first podcast I ever started, so it definitely has like a special place in my heart, and I'm just excited that it's back, man. We'll call this the first episode of season 2. Like I said, if the guys want to come on, they're more than welcome, but it's probably just going to be me most episodes. Yeah, that's going to do it. My name's Kenny Moss, and I'll see you guys next time.